Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Mentlik, the licensed holistic psychotherapist and children's development expert, as well as intuitive guide. Welcome to the show, Carly. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I'm so excited to talk to you. We have an amazing conversation in front of us, so it's going to be great. I would love to start with a little bit of your story. How did you become the psychotherapist, but also what has led you to being on the self and spiritual development journey? This is what I'm really curious about.
Yeah. I think that it was my story itself and my teaching, like getting into education and psychology. I was obviously intuitively drawn there and didn't know. I even would be the one playing school and always have to be the teacher and wanting to help people and things like that. And what's coming up for me that you said it though that really sparked is when I started a very Western path that like going to traditional college through education and psychology. And then I learned, I got into the world of feminist psychology and learned that there's this, I was initially really drawn to working with girls development. And I work a lot with adolescent development too. And so I learned that there's this point in time when girls and boys too, actually happens younger, where they go underground and they forget who they are and they cover over their knowledge and they disconnect from their true self, essentially. And I became really drawn to that professionally, but I really saw myself in that. And I was like, wait, that happened to me, and then I realized that happened to my friends. And so that really sparked me to first get into, again, traditional Western therapy. But then when I found the world of yoga later on in my 20s and connected with that philosophy, I really just it just kind of exploded for me. And so I guess that's what when people talk about an awakening, I think I had one before that, but it was really more like an awareness of what was going on, and it really led me to my own journey to explore yoga, all different Western traditions, travel around the world, just learn about different ways of being. And then I wanted to bring all of that to the kids. So what if what if no one had to do that? What if children didn't have to do that? And so then I started just naturally and through my creativity, translating kind of all my understandings into materials and curriculum and now characters for kids.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. So it's always great to have your own journey and kind of your own realization. Okay, this is what's missing, so I'm going to bring it to the world. And so I know that you are a founder of the Inner Rainbow Project. I would like you to share a little bit about this.
Yeah. Okay. So the Inner Rainbow Project itself is, a celebration of, come from the idea that we all have an inner rainbow, and we all have different aspects of ourselves, and we all have different qualities, and that they all deserve to be expressed and not hidden. So from what I shared with my story of learning that that's what happens, what happened to me, of going underground, this is a mission to help keep that alive in children so they don't have to go reclaiming it. And then the Inner Rainbow also speaks to how my work is really foundational. I work with the Chakra System, and so using the Chakra System as the framework to ignite your inner powers and ignite your magic, connect with your inner self, and to hopefully not lose your inner self.
Beautiful. And so how would you describe chakras for kids? Because this is your specialty, right? You're doing some camp chakra kids. And I'm really curious, how do you describe it? How do you explain it? Because it's kind of like I don't know, like a weird thing to explain. It's like energy vortex inside of your body. It's like how do you say it?
It's very weird to explain. Actually, I have I have some videos where I share, and I put a video together that's on my YouTube channel that goes through that video. Though, even though I had studied chakras, I took every class, I took yoga training, I taught I mean, everything you could think. I was teaching them to children in practice, in my private practice, and yet it was still really difficult to describe what it is and how, especially because the modern chakra system is influenced by Eastern and Western. So there's the Eastern. So the way that I share it is I talk about, I honor where and explain the roots of where it came from. So the history of the chakras, the deepest roots of them is that they envisioned that there were these chakra means wheel and circle in Sanskrit. So they envisioned that there were energy centers all along the spine, and then would use them to and there were specific chants and specific visualizations that they would do along to help them free the energy along their spine, and generally to help them connect with their highest self. And what I loved about learning about the history was that it wasn't this was something everyone had access to, all householders did. So it was the way that you prepared yourself to be okay in the world. And then I share that that along the way, Westerners, more like later on in like the 1900s, learned about this. And like, we don't have this in Western psychology. And that's why Carl Jung is really like associated with that. And so I share about him that they found this out. They're like, wait, we don't have this. This is really a ladder to our best self. And so we started to associate the chakras with all different aspects of our best self and related them to where they are in your body. So I explained that, grounding and connection to roots is in your lower chakra up to the heart. And that now it's used across the world to support health and happiness in mind, body, and spirit. So it's a really great way to understand the mind-body connection. And then I also teach it through my characters. So I developed characters to help kids understand how the chakras can help them and what they are.
Oh, characters are great. I love this this idea of characters. And also, how do you explain the higher self? That's what I'm really curious about.
So when I started that was really challenging for me as well. When I started I have a podcast called Chakra Talk. I just started it as a baby podcaster. But the first few episodes, the very first episode, so it's what is mind, body, and spirit. And the way that I talk about higher self and spirit is a connection to your true essence. And I leave space open for, people, if you have a culture or a religion that you're part of your family, there might be there might be words or a way that you already talk about higher self and connecting to your higher self through God or spirit or source. But the way I explain it is a connection to your true essence and to your true self. And so what is that? And I go into the body to talk about that too, because I think it's helpful. Like, well, what isn't it? And kids can really identify. My daughter could know kind of what that was, even at a very young age. And so so what isn't it? It's when you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel like you can speak up, and your true self and your highest self feels natural, and it might have a different quality in your body to it. So I help kids identify what that feels like for them. And there's no resistance there. And so, and I still, I'm working on that. That's another one. That and intuition are like really big concepts that I've been working on for a really long time, of like, how can you really teach that in depth to kids? And I think getting them into their bodies and doing some activities. I'm working on a meditation about that, but I still haven't gotten it like what is that? But I think it really is, it's a feeling, and it's something that you can identify with through connection. And I think that when kids are still connected to it, it's harder, it's not disconnected. So you could talk about it as just them, what makes them happy, what helps them be in flow, what helps them light up, so yeah, that's some of the ways that I describe it.
That's beautiful.
More to come, yes. More
That's
concise
beautiful.
answer to come, yes.
Really, because like for kids it's like a natural state, because they are still not let's say, I don't know, their flow is not interrupted by all the societal conditions and patterns, right? So if you talk to kids about higher self, it's like, yeah, that's obvious, right? It's like, this is a part of me that is the most natural, that is my essence, that is the natural flow of life. So it's amazing. And do you have any other tips on, for parents, on how to talk about spirituality to their kids?
Yeah, I mean, and in the same way, actually, I think it's funny that when I came out of the closet of speaking about spirituality and not saying, just social emotional learning, self-empowerment, which it all is, I'm like, would my daughter be able to describe what the word spirituality is? And I'm like, not necessarily. And then I kind of got like caught up in it a little and was like, well, how can I teach spirituality if my daughter, and then I realized it actually is through what you're being. So if you can create an environment and keep creating space and talking about more so through the discussion of true essence, true flow, what keeps you in that's really the way that I like to talk about it with kids. And again, honoring too, if you have a specific culture, religion, you might have specific values or concepts or things you want to incorporate. But for me, the way that I teach it and the way that I share it with my daughter is really open. And so what helps you feel like your best self? What do you love doing? Learning what makes them feel off, learning by observation what helps them light up. So it's not even always necessarily through conversation. It's like helping them have freedom to get into that flow and be in it. And I love how you said uninterrupted. And so creating an uninterrupted space to be in flow is how you teach spirituality. It's not like, here's spirituality. And I get it too, because I was like, oh no, how am I going to be like, people going to think I know what I'm talking about if my daughter can just define spirituality? And it's like, well, she is it. Like, and that's what I want to teach people, to help their kids to allow that space for them to be their true essence. And that to me is spirituality.
Beautiful. And everything is spirituality anyway. Like, the spirit is everywhere, so there's nothing that is not spirituality, actually. And I love that you give space for kids to actually discover it themselves, because what I found is that intuition speaks to everyone very differently, right? Like, one person can be a feeler and can really sense everything and feel everything in the body. Another person can get visions and just some clarity. Another person can just get some downloads and some wisdom flowing to them. And it's very different for everyone. And even sometimes it can shift, or sometimes new abilities can open up. So we cannot really define how our higher self communicates with us. We need to just check it and feel it and sense it. And so it's really beautiful to inspire kids to do the same without giving like a frame, because then it can be really natural and really true. Right? Because otherwise, if we put frameworks on everything and boxes on everything, we're going to be like the school, like a conventional school that lets you learn this and this and this and this, and like half of this stuff is not even relevant for your life. And if schools,
that's a nice percentage that you gave.
I know. I didn't want to be extreme.
That's a very generous percentage.
I know. I just didn't want to, be super extreme, but yeah, honestly, I think it's bigger than that. But let's just leave it. I don't want to.
I'm being playful. Yeah. Honor all paths. Yes.
Exactly. But it's great to just leave space and freedom, because everyone is different, and if we treat everyone individually, that's where we can blossom. That's where we can really be in alignment with our mission and with what we are supposed to do here. So it's really, really beautiful. And do you have any prompts for parents to speak, to their children about the spirituality and all the related topics?
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about prompts, I like to share specific ones. And I also, what's really important, and this is something I learned way back in terms of learning how to when I was learning how to interview kids to get to their authentic self. And so asking open-ended questions. So when you ask, what makes you feel that way, or how do you feel about this, or what are some times that you feel that it's hard for you to calm your mind. So for example, instead of saying, do you ever have trouble calming your mind, because it sets an answer correctly already, it's like a suggested answer. So really giving open-ended space, and always be cultivating curiosity. So just really, it's like, how do you feel about this? What do you think? Or what do you think is another way that you can do this? Or how do you think so-and-so felt about this, is something that I really like and think is really important, because helping like self-awareness, part of self-awareness is also how do other people feel, and being able to put yourselves in other people's shoes. And so, yeah, open-ended questions. And then I also, with prompts, also making sure that it's in a flow of a conversation and not like a lecture. So really coming into it with being like open-minded for what's going to happen in the conversation, and open to what you're going to hear, as opposed to having like a preset answer or preset like lesson that you want to instill, because they get it, they know, and they're out.
Yeah, we don't want to school here, right?
Yeah,
we don't want to school in the house.
Yeah.
We want freedom.
Yeah. And also, I mean, and that's why I like the chakra system too, because you spoke about a framework, and framework can be very suffocating, or like what a box can be very suffocating. What I like about the framework of the chakra system, or at least how I try to use it for kids, is it gives some kind of grounding. It's like that divine masculine structure, so the feminine can flow, but there's not a restriction of freedom to it. And so it gives like, okay, if I feel this way, it gives you some guidance. Like I go to this tool set when I need to get into my flow. I go to this tool set when I need my inner fire. I go to this tool set, but it doesn't restrict it and make it like you're saying, like you're in a box, or like you can only think a certain way, or you can only have a certain type of tool. And that's what I try to do too, is offer like a playground, I call it, of different things, because then you can start to, then you can learn how your intuition speaks to you, and you can develop tools for how it specifically does. And not feel like, oh, well, why aren't these things working for me? Well, because you don't hear spirit that way, or you don't learn that way.
Yes, and also I love chakra system as well. I started my own spiritual journey from the chakra system, and what I love about it too,
wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. And what I love about it too is that everyone just feels it differently, and you can work with colors, you can work with mantras, you can work with mudras, you can work with emotions. And that's how I like to work with it the most. I wrote my own chakra meditation specifically, also with visualizations.
Cool, I'll have to do it.
Yes, you're very welcome to.
I'm going to.
There is a short version of it on YouTube, but I also have a longer version that I'm selling. And the short version is like 4 minutes per chakra. And it's about really embodying the emotions that are responsible to activate specific chakras. I really like to work with emotions, because then you are building the neural pathways that are responsible for these feelings. And then you are really setting your mind up for feeling positive, because obviously we're working with the positive emotions to activate it. Of course, I do shadow work also to unlock the shadow, the darkness, right? And to actually alchemize it into light. But I just love the chakra system as well. And I feel like for kids, it's the best way to start, because it's so simple, and there's only 7 of them. So you can easily remember, and you can, describe it as the rainbow. And it's interesting because it's light. All the colors of the rainbow are becoming the white light. So it's enlightenment. It's kind of like, it's nice way to describe it. When you are fully in your light, when your chakras are open and you're just beaming everywhere, that's when you can reach enlightenment. I feel that's how I like to think about it. Anyway.
I love it. I love that. That's beautiful. And I picture myself creating, when I get cool visualizations, I translate it to like, how can I put that in like the Chakra Kids mythology? So now I'm picturing some kind of like white, like rainbow light coming around them. But the reason I totally agree with you, and another reason that an additional reason I think for kids that it's so powerful and beneficial to teach emotions through the chakras. It helps it, like in what you're saying with colors, and that's why I have the characters and the different kinds of multi-sensory ways you can approach it, because it makes it feel safer. There's still a stigma in our culture of having a negative emotion, and so that's why part of introducing shadow emotions with the chakra kids themselves is to help normalize shadow work and shadow in itself, that it's not this thing you have to hide from and then excavate when you're an adult because you shoved it away, because it was not appropriate to, we weren't allowed to. And so that's another reason why I agree. I love using chakras with the emotions and using that as a framework, a structure, to learn about emotions in a way that's going to fit for the individual.
Amazing. And do you have any other exercises that help children, connect to their soul and just feel their intuition and find their inner wisdom and guidance?
Yeah. Well, staying on kind of what we've been talking about, that there's different ways for different people. One, I think it's important for parents to help kids create their own rituals. So they have a daily ritual that they know. When I'm teaching how to access it and how to learn your most powerful ways to access it. I love teaching simple breath work, simple meditations, guided visualization. So you can create the stories and you can, that's when they can, not everybody can see and feel colors and feel the chakras energetically, but many people can. And that's part of their and so that helps them. I love using affirmations. And I also think it's important to use, to get hands-on kind of projects and where you have a chance to get even deeper into the knowledge. So I'm trying to think of one of the fun activity. Well, you know what? I'll say one of the foundational activities that I share is to create I call it a happiness toolkit. So it's like a place where you're collecting. It's like a memory box, but it's specific to tools and memories and things that support your happiness and support your emotional wellness. So maybe there's a card that you got from someone you love, or maybe a crystal that's your favorite, and then guide kids to choose one thing for each of the chakras, so something grounding, something that reminds you of your friendship and flow, and up through the crown, something that helps you dream and stay connected. And so you have a place to gather that. And then there's the frame. That's an example of how there's structure and some guidance and a framework. And then within that, it could be any idea. The box can look its own way, and there's so much creativity within that. And then all the tools can be individualized. So that's the kind of thing I like, where there's a combination of a structure and a grounding, but then an ability to flow and find your own thing with it without a restriction.
Amazing. Yeah. And it's amazing that we can use the creativity of the children, because sometimes they can come up with better ideas than we could have, really, with how they can
my daughter is now absolutely I just published the first Chakra children's book. She was like, oh, the font, not even just the font, but just different ideas for the characters and just for her own self. Yeah, what's going to calm her down or what's going to help her feel brave. She comes up with these wild, amazing things, and she wouldn't be able to unless there was a freedom that was allowed, and that there is an openness, and that there isn't just these here's what you choose, go breathe. And I also teach adults. I do therapy for adults, and somebody was just describing their experience with meditation and how it hasn't worked for them, describing that what they've been taught is you have to go lie down in a dark room and not move and just focus on your breathing. That's not the only, that wasn't a fit for them in their style. And so that's why I think it's really important to allow creativity is one way that you offer freedom to find what's right for you.
Thank you for sharing that. And how do you, because you have a daughter, right? So how do you incorporate your daughter into your own spiritual journey?
Yeah. Initially when she was a baby, it's really just immersion. So you just see the things around, you see what I'm doing. You see that there's a yoga mat on the floor. You see that I'm doing this, that I'm going into a practice, or I'm saying, oh, I'm going to meditate, and then slowly incorporating it into things that are related to her. So getting to sleep it was initially, or just calming down when you feel upset, feeling brave to go try something new. So that's when I then incorporate like, oh, here's some things that help me. Maybe they'll help you, and let's figure it out, and so then I'd start, oh, here, let's make you your own essential oil blends, because that's something that I use, or here's the crystals that are the best, why don't you pick your own, and just bringing it in that way and just really immersing it, as opposed to like, here, I'm going to, kind of in this rote way. So yeah, just incorporating her into it all. And also, again, noticing like what's a fit for her. So not just like, oh, I love yoga, you love yoga. So it's like seeing like, what do you really love? And she, will just play forever in the water, say, for example. So it's like, that's a way she connects with spirit. So it's like, just let that, how can I create space for that to grow and enhance? And so it's incorporating her in my style to help her find her own.
I love how you said it, because this is about freedom, and this is about treating every kid as an individual person. It's not like you are my kid, so you think like me, you act like me, you should do things like me, because that's what the society does, and religion and so on. You should think in this way and believe in this and believe in that. And it's like, if you give freedom for an individual to grow and just accept that, okay, you are birthing this beautiful creature into this world, but actually it's a separate creature. It's like, you have no right to tell them how to live, right? I mean, you guide them, but it's not like your own, if you know what I mean. That's how I see it in a way. I mean, I don't have kids yet. I would like to at some point, but that's how I feel like is a more healthy approach, when you don't impose everything on the kid. You're actually giving freedom and space for them to discover themselves and what their essence is, what their calling is, how they believe, how they perceive the world. So I love how you share this. So thank you so much. It's really, really, really beautiful.
And I love the way you reflect it too, because I agree. And it's definitely a philosophy and approach that not everyone shares, but I definitely share it. And it's definitely growing in people that, really believe in that, and allowing and letting kids grow in that way.
And so you mentioned that you do yoga as well. So how do you introduce the yoga philosophy to the kids?
Yeah, that is too. It's when it was introduced, when I learned about the true yoga, I call it, because initially I was like, new exercise way. When I was younger, it was a new way I can exercise. But when I got and learned about the philosophy really foundationally, one thing I teach about is just what yoga is. It means unite. So it means connecting and staying connected to your true self. So I'll share little things like that, or in yoga it's like this, or I love how in yoga there's this, we were talking about shadow work. There's a lot of inherent foundations in the philosophy of yoga that's like, it's okay to have shadow. It's okay to have negative emotions. So I talk about samskaras, which I think is like a cool word. Some of the yoga words are cool. I like that, because it has the word scar in it, so I share so in yoga, it's natural that we kind of we take on these, beliefs and just different things that aren't true about ourselves throughout the day. And we have to clear them. Simple namaste, there's teaching the word namaste and sharing the philosophy of that, that you're starting from the point of acknowledging that you're interconnected with other people. I mean, it just changes, the way. And then I like teaching the yamas and the niyamas. I think that it's a kinder and more I think teaching nonviolence can be, kids can understand it more than I don't know, be nice or don't be a bully. It's like, well, what's the point of nonviolence and how does it help you? And so it helps. There's a lot of, so I'll incorporate yoga philosophy in a way that helps kids today, how can it help you shift the way that you think about yourself and the way that you think about other people, which is really what the yamas and niyamas are. So so I incorporate it in a lot of different ways, and I teach it through the characters too. So a lot of the characters' names for the spirit animals' names will be a name of a concept in yoga. So it opens space for yoga teachers to use that as a vehicle or a symbol to teach the concept itself. So for example, like my Phoenix character's name is Pingala, and is Pingala. And so that helps teach like, okay, here's how we can teach like outward energy and what that feels like, and, you know, a solar kind of style. So I have a lot of seeds within my characters for how to teach yoga philosophy that have yet to be, have yet to bloom. They're just bursting now from the soil.
That's cool. That's cool. I love the characters. I think it's the best way, because it's kind of like a fairy tale, or it's kind of like a cartoon when you can picture the character and then this character represents. It's almost like Hindu gods or something.
That's absolutely. It was a huge influence of that, because that was so powerful to me when I was like, oh, I really identify with like Kali and Durga and Ganesh. Like I love, like, it really helped me understand myself. And then when I learned like, oh, that's not an outside of you, that's a symbol of an aspect of you. And so that's what all the characters of Chakra Kids mythology are too. So yeah, I love that you noticed that parallel, because it's very heavily inspired. Along with like my old school, like I grew up in the 80s, so it's like they're also inspired by like the Care Bears and Rainbow Bright, and just so I call them like the mystical, you know, Care Bears or Rainbow Bright kind of thing. So it has that kind of flavor to it too, that's also just very comforting and very grounding and relatable.
Yeah, relatable. That's the thing. Then we can really, it's beautiful. I love it. I love your perspective, and I love how you share it with the world. And so I'm curious to know if people really vibe with you and they would like to see more of your content and videos and everything that you are creating. What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, well, my main hub is innerrainbowproject.com, and you can find everything there. I'm really excited about the podcast I just started, Chakra Talk, that you can see. That's where you can learn about all different kinds of spiritual topics that you probably wish you had access to. So now your kids can learn about them. And I go more into the chakras there, and mindfulness, and all the different things that we talked about. And then, my main program is Camp Chakra Kids, which I said is like a digital, it's a virtual playground that actually gets you out into the world, but that gives kids this kind of framework and freedom to explore and build their own emotional wellness toolkit. And so you can find that on my website too. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been a really wonderful conversation. I could talk to you even more, but today we
you're really fun
to
talk to. I love your energy.
Thank you so much. I love yours as well. So I'm sending you massive gratitude for this talk, because I'm sure that it's going to help parents and introduce all these amazing spiritual topics, because it's important that we teach kids. I feel like meditation and yoga, it should be at school, and also emotions, how to handle them. It all should be taught. So thank you so much for sharing this wisdom with the world, and for the work you do, because it's great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.